Welcome, everyone, to this very first episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken podcast. See, I'm going with the same kind of naming. So, this is going to be more of a solo show. Occasionally, I'll bring in a person or something like that. And more or less, this is more just reacting to videos that I'm seeing and floating around that I kind of just want to bring up, talk about, and stuff like that. It's a real laid back show, not a whole lot to it. Very simple in execution, though I was rushing to get it all together because you wanna know what? Why do today what you can put off till tomorrow? And it seems to be the philosophy that I've been dealing with over the last couple days when it comes to this. I knew this was coming up. I just did not plan for it, and now I'm biting me in the ass. But I had already found some videos that I kind of just want to watch, kind of comment on, and this has to do more with the Windows hate that's going, and is it justified? And this all coming down to Windows 11 and what's going on. I'm finding that I have unhooked. I'm decoupling myself from the Microsoft infrastructure and built a Linux system, and I'm trying a couple different Linux distros out. And one of them that I'm trying right now that I have set up is Zorn Linux, and we're going to see and play around with it and see how that works out. But I've also got a couple other distros that I can try, and eventually I am going to exit out of the Microsoft Windows environment and ecosystem because I think what they're doing, they've been around too long, and this is coming from a person that grew up always in Microsoft, starting with DOS 6.0 to Windows 3.11 for workgroups. So it's 30 plus years of Microsoft, and just what everything that's been going on with Windows is just I'm done. So I've kind of hit my breaking point. So welcome everyone to this very first episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken. I got to get used to saying that. So here we go. This is what we're going to start off with. That's not what I want. That's never what I want. Okay, let's go with this. Seem to have lost the one that I prefer, but hey, you want to know what it is? What it is. So here we go. So this video comes from, let me get it scanned down so we can give the appropriate information on who this comes from. Oh, so this actually comes from Smart Investment Breakdown. And this is the whole point of why I'm getting out of the Microsoft ecosystem, is because Windows hiding personal information. This is all tied to their AI software that they are forcing on everyone, that you have to do so many backdoors and everything else to disconnect. And the whole point that Microsoft is either bullied or is in partners with YouTube, because if you watch Clownfish TV, they're avoiding talking about how to do it because they're seeing other channels that are instructing people on how to disable or how to end Microsoft's being able to do this through it. Well, they are getting taken down, or blocked or shadow banned or what have you. So it's you can find a lot of that information through other sites because they don't quite have the same stronghold that Microsoft has with Google. So make sure we go and check out Smart Investment Breakdown. They're very close to 1,000 subs. Let's go ahead and get this going.
Windows is keeping more of your personal data than most users realize, and Microsoft rarely talks about where it lives. Right now, buried deep inside your system, there is a folder you have never seen that is silently collecting screenshots, passwords, browser URLs, and diagnostic data even after you have cleared your history, emptied your recycle bin, and restarted your computer. This is not speculation. This is the Windows App Data Directory, specifically the Packages subfolder, and what security researchers have found inside it has alarmed digital forensic experts and privacy advocates across 3 continents. Over 1 billion devices run Windows 11 today, and every single one of them is doing this without most users ever knowing. Microsoft launched Windows 11 in October 2021 with promises of enhanced privacy controls and transparency. But behind the clean interface and simplified settings menu, the operating system has been creating permanent cache files in system folders deliberately hidden from File Explorer.
That in itself is a problem. I mean, I'm hearing that a lot of IT specialists are trying to convince their companies to start ditching Windows 11. Microsoft in general, mainly because of the fees. Countries are starting to drop Microsoft. South Korea is dropping Microsoft. It's recently, I would say not recently, probably within, I think, the last year, there's certain parts of the US government that have already banned Windows 11 because, well, the things that they're putting in for AI is just really becoming security risks.
Files store diagnostic telemetry, clipboard history, browser metadata, and thumbnail captures of your screen, all persisting long after Microsoft's own documentation claims they have been deleted. In the next 15 minutes, you will see exactly where this data hides, what it contains, and why privacy regulators in Europe launched formal investigations that could cost Microsoft up to $4 billion. Microsoft's official stance is straightforward. According to their diagnostic data documentation, Windows collects only the minimum information necessary to keep your device secure, up to date.
How many times have we heard this from companies? We only collect a little bit. Well, you want to know what? They're collecting a lot more. They say it's all basic information, but have you ever talked about something specific that you're thinking about buying, and then suddenly you start seeing ads for it from your phone, or you start searching it, and all of a sudden now you're getting ads because, again, Windows has turned into another just form of advertising. This is just getting ridiculous. And on top of that, you must be online. You must connect your accounts to a Microsoft account to be able to actually function in Windows. You are the customer. I mean, you're no longer the customer. You're now the product. All of this information that Microsoft is getting, and it's not just Microsoft. Don't get me wrong. Other companies are doing it. Amazon does it. I mean, let's see who else is doing it. Google's doing it. All of these companies are using your data, selling it, especially a lot of them that are like free to use and stuff like that. For the most part, is collecting your data and then is selling it. And then on top of that, they say, well, we're going to tailor advertisements to your usage. So why don't you come and check it out? And we'll give you exactly what you want because we know what you're looking for. So we'll put it out there in advertisements, but go to your start menu. Remember when Windows 10, all the little blocks, I mean, it was already starting to happen there where you have advertisements of either like stuff out of the Microsoft store or just flat out trying to get you to sign up for subscriptions to streaming services. I mean, this goes all the way back to Windows 10, but it is just even worse in Windows 11.
And performing properly. The company states that users can control their privacy settings through the Settings app under Privacy and Security, and that clearing system cache or restarting your computer removes temporary files. This diagnostic data collection, Microsoft argues, powers essential features like Windows Update, error, reporting, and performance optimization. Windows 11 offers 3 levels of telemetry: security, required, and optional. Security level, available only to enterprise editions, sends minimal data about security threats and Windows Defender.
And yet, companies, IT specialists are trying to get their companies to stop using Microsoft Windows. So even at the enterprise level, IT specialists are wanting it dropped. That's a bad sign. And Microsoft, Microsoft, I think is had their time in the sun, if you will. It's time for another OS to come in and start taking over. I think they've gotten too comfortable in their position and not actually everyone just automatically goes and accepts it because it's the standard on PCs. Well, you want to know what? Maybe this time for manufacturers to start maybe looking at selling systems with other operating systems. Linux already installed, with a choice of Linux installs. Chrome OS maybe making a bigger. Now, granted, Chrome OS in itself has its issues. because again, now you're getting into the Google infrastructure and Google environment. So, I mean, it's still personal choices, but right now, Microsoft has been making moves. We've already seen it with 365 Office, which is now 365 Office Copilot. No, Copilot. They're getting rid of that. And they already started the subscription fee. They're talking about now adding subscription fee to just Windows itself. You want full access to Windows? Yeah, well, you just got to pay a fee, monthly fee, rent it.
Required diagnostic data includes device connectivity information, quality-related data, and compatibility details needed to keep Windows updated. Optional diagnostic data adds browsing history fragments, detailed device usage, and enhanced error reports. For most home users running Windows 11, Home or Pro, the minimum setting is required, meaning you cannot completely disable telemetry. The data supposedly gets anonymized, aggregated, and used to improve Microsoft's products and services. Microsoft also introduced the Diagnostic Data Viewer in 2018, a built-in tool that claims to show users exactly what information Windows collects. On paper, this sounds reasonable. Problem is what Microsoft does not advertise in that documentation. Security researchers and digital forensic specialists began noticing something unusual in 2022 and 2023. When examining Windows 11 systems during incident response investigations, analysts discovered cache files containing user activity data in locations Microsoft's own privacy documentation never mentioned.
Yeah, that's a problem in itself because I mean, this all this should be. I mean, as a user, you should be able to access all of this stuff. You should know what's going on with your own system. It goes back to the whole point that if you buy a new PC now, it's automatically preloaded with Windows 11. And before you can even use your piece of equipment that you bought, you own to be able to operate it, you've got to sign into a Microsoft account. What existed to be able to make a standalone unit so you don't have to have it connected, Microsoft has been slowly getting rid of. And then when the backdoors are found to be able to get it to actually be able to be used, they go and then they patch it. Again, you're not buying a product, you are giving information to Microsoft. Microsoft is using you as the commodity to sell to other people or to use for themselves.
Dr. Jung-Hoon Han from the Korea University Digital Forensics Research Lab published findings in 2020 showing that Windows telemetry stores data in RBS files, binary log formats that persist for up to 3 months and contain process execution history, application installation records, hardware device information, and USB connection events. These logs exist separately from standard Windows artifacts like registry, prefetch, and event logs, and they survive far longer, sometimes retaining over a year of Windows update history. FortiGuard Incident Response Team documented this in December 2025 during a ransomware investigation. The attacker had used sophisticated anti-forensic techniques, wiping files, clearing event logs, and obfuscating malicious binaries to cover their tracks. But forensic analysts found remnants of deleted malware executables inside a Windows telemetry file called autologger-diagtracklistener.etl. Even though the attack...
Now, I get Microsoft's wanting to do a lot of this stuff to make it more usable, to make it more user-friendly. Again, everyone's just gotten so used to Microsoft, and that's why it's so difficult for so many people to try a different operating system. I mean, we're seeing it with the smaller, lower budget option laptops that are coming now just with Chrome OS. It has essentially all the basic same features as that you can use on a tablet and the smaller PCs, which is fine. But now with Steam OS, it is starting to show that Linux in itself is becoming more of a viable operating system for users. And not like super users, power users, or anything like that, but more and more of the basic users. It's becoming more and more friendly.
Attacker had erased the original malicious files. Evidence of their execution persisted within diagnostic logs. That same hidden storage pattern appears in the app data directory structure. The path is typically hidden, %, local app data, %, /packages /. Inside this folder, Windows stores application-specific data for system apps and third-party programs installed from the Microsoft Store. One Reddit user discovered their packages folder was consuming 27 gigabytes of storage without their knowledge. File Explorer does not show this folder by default because Microsoft marks it as hidden and system protected. Digital forensic specialists have documented 3 particularly concerning subfolders. The first is the clipboard service cache.
Seeing that that's also becoming a problem is that a lot of these files you can't even delete. I'll see if I can actually find that video, and we may watch it in the future. But yeah, they go, and there was a guy that was saying they're just going through trying to clean it all up, get rid of all of this information, all the stuff that Microsoft Windows was saying they're logging that he didn't want saved on his PC. There's no reason for it to be being captured. But no, it would not allow him to delete it. Microsoft, what are you doing? Why?
Located in the %sign, program data %sign, /Microsoft, /Windows, /clip svc, which contains encrypted clipboard history stored in a file called tokens.dat. Security researcher xret2pdion demonstrated in 2023 that even after users clear their clipboard history through Windows settings, fragments of that data remain recoverable in this encrypted database. The second location is %sign, local updata, %sign, /Microsoft, /Windows, /clipboard, which stores clipboard history in JSON format when the clipboard history feature is enabled.
Which is just awesome for hackers. It's just awesome for making easy malware and spyware. For those that do that stuff, do you want to know how many people are getting hacked and everything else and that information getting out? This is the exact reason why. Because there's no privacy left. These PCs we own. There are pieces of equipment. It's time for Microsoft to pay, in the sense that people need to start thinking about using different options. This is getting ridiculous that they're allowed to get away with this in the first place. I'm wondering, at one point, is I hate saying the government actually going to do something about it, but it's a privacy. And the fact that this is all being forced on everyone, buy a new PC, and what is loaded on it? Microsoft Windows, unless you're buying a Mac. Or you're buying a budget PC, then that is very limited. But if you're buying a gaming system or something like that, you're going to have Windows 11, and you're forced into it. No, oddly enough, they're now showing that market share, Windows 11's market share is coming down. You would think with the ending of the support of Windows 10, and they'll keep warning everyone, oh, your system's now going to be unprotected. Your system's now going to be unprotected. You better upgrade. Well, the thing is, the system requirements, about half the PCs are saying that are out there that are currently in use, half of them can't go to Windows 11 because it doesn't have the TPM 2.0 chip on the motherboard. So essentially, Microsoft forced half the computers out there to become obsolete and have to be replaced. Microsoft is out of control. But again, talking about the market share, they're showing that there's been increased market share of Windows 7. That is such an old operating system, but you can run it without it having to ever go on the internet. People want control back. I think people are getting sick and tired of companies having so much control over our own stuff. I think it all goes, again, to the right to repair. There's this movement for right to repair that I fully endorse. It's your piece of equipment. It's your computer. It's your car. It's whatever. If you're the one that bought it, you own it. The moment you buy it, the company doesn't have control over it anymore. You can do whatever you want to it. And I think that's the reason why Microsoft has lately been doing these free upgrades to the new operating systems, because then you haven't bought anything, and so that they control it. This goes back again to the WEF. You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You'll rent everything. You're just going to spend the rest of your life as a renter. And essentially that's what's ending up happening with like Microsoft products and Microsoft operating system. They're moving to, you don't own this. And it's been like this for years because of how many times people have gone in, made adjustments to Microsoft Windows, and they get prosecuted for it. Intellectual property. Now, no, you bought a license. You can do whatever the heck you want with it. You bought a copy of it. That copy's yours. Do whatever you want to it. I don't see why that is such a big deal and why that's a problem. Now, if you go take the Microsoft Windows, adjust it to the way you want to, then slap your name on it and then try to sell it, then obviously that breaks the law. They're just selling a product. That would be like going to, let's say, fuck it. Let's like going to McDonald's, buying a Big Mac, taking the Big Mac apart, taking the lettuce off yourself, and then putting the sandwich back together to eat it. What's wrong with that? Because they made it a certain way, you're not allowed to touch it in any kind of way? I think that's my biggest argument that I'm starting to, and anger point when it comes to Microsoft. It's, again, I'm not a Microsoft fanboy. I never have been. I think it's just because, again, so many of us are just forced into the Microsoft ecosystem because it's the only operating system that's around. And it's quite sad that in the end, the antitrust court cases that were happening with Microsoft ended up getting overturned. They didn't have to get broken up, even though they clearly violated antitrust law.
Folder retains text, images, and metadata about what was copied, along with timestamps. The third area is the activities cache.db database, which has been logging clipboard activity since Windows 10 version 1803. This SQLite database records exactly where clipboard data was copied from, when it was copied, and stores the actual content as a base64 encoded string. Forensic analyst Felipe Moore from ThinkDFIR tested this in 2022 by deliberately copying sensitive text from a file on his desktop. After clearing his clipboard and closing all applications, he examined the activities cache.db database and found the original content still present, complete with the source file path and exact timestamp. The data persists.
Which then leaves the question, why are governments even using Microsoft Windows? This data is not deleted. I mean, a lot of these computers are marked for like classification of computers. I mean, in the Navy we had computers that were actually marked for sensitive or classified material. Clearly tagged and marked, but based on this, modern Windows systems is sitting there logging stuff that it shouldn't be. Or not fully deleting it out of its history. Instead, it's keeping records of everything you do. Why? There's absolutely almost no reason that I can see why Windows should even be doing that. Not to mention the persistent online. That just opens up to such security problems, in my opinion.
For up to 12 hours before the database automatically expired old entries. But here is the critical detail. That expiration only applies to the activities cache.db file, not the other clipboard storage locations or the broader diagnostic telemetry logs. Now, the immediate reaction many people have is that local storage is not a significant threat. If someone has physical access to your computer, you already have bigger problems. But that reasoning misses three major vulnerabilities that security researchers have been warning about since 2019. First, malware does not need administrator privileges to access these folders. The app data directory exists within your user profile with standard user-level permissions. Any Trojan, keylogger, or data exfiltration malware running under your user account can scrape these diagnostic databases and transmit your clipboard history, browser metadata, and cached screenshots to remote command and control servers.
So leaving us completely vulnerable. This is the way things are going. If this is, I mean, it's very frustrating. As just a casual a user of the computer and stuff like that. But more and more people, I mean, are just so attached to their phones. But again, the PC in itself is, I'm not going to say is dying because it's not, but younger generations are more tablet and phone based. They don't even know how to use computers anymore. Or it's just so basic usage because they don't even know how file systems work. But I think that's intentional because if you don't know how the system works, then you're forced to have someone else come and do it for you. You don't learn anything. I think as technology has increased and our and accessibility to this knowledge and ability to do this stuff, I think has made us actually dumber.
Security experts on Hacker News specifically called out the app data directory in January 2024 as a security nightmare because applications can read each other's data as long as they belong to the same user. Second, Microsoft account synchronization and OneDrive backup can upload these diagnostic cache files to Microsoft's cloud infrastructure. Microsoft
Right there. Microsoft fucking cloud. It's another thing that Microsoft is constantly persisting, trying to get everyone to sign up for. Use your cloud services, So you're going to freely give your information, your documents to someone else to house for you. At that point, really, you no longer have control over your own stuff. You're handing it off to someone else. Now, granted, Microsoft in itself is a private company. So, yeah, I mean, security of papers that's protected under the Constitution does not apply because, again, they're not the government. But are you just going to freely hand this over? I don't know if this video is going to get into it. One of the features of Microsoft 11, Windows 11, when it comes to Copilot, constantly taking screenshots. Because of the Windows screenshotting, storing it in a file that's hidden that you don't know how to delete and can't get rid of, it's leaving all of that. And so you go and you type in credit card information, or you are doing your taxes and your information's right up there. It's getting screenshotted. And as this was just saying, the Trojan horses and keyloggers and everything else is at high, not at real deep permissions. It's right at lower level permissions. So anyone can get access to that information. Hellhound. Yeah, we ran old ass Windows in the military. Yeah, we did as well. I wish you could stick around. I gotta see him. Have a good night there, Hellhound. Take it easy. Yeah, this is just, oh man. Again, more and more that I'm finding out of what Windows has been doing lately. And on top of that, they're laying people off like mad. So they already now have a garbage operating system that has flaws. They're jamming more and more stuff in there that maybe a lot of users don't even want, need, or even use. And then on top of that, you're losing more and more control over your own system that you own.
Microsoft updated its privacy policy in 2025 to explicitly state that diagnostic data may be used to train artificial intelligence models for improving Microsoft 365 Copilot and related services.
See, again, right there, what Microsoft is saying about why they're scraping this data is so they can train their AI. So congratulations, you're an AI trainer. You didn't know it. You're being forced to, so that they can make a better AI to serve you advertisements. And again, like I said, Microsoft's not the only one doing this. Amazon does it. Google does it. The argument with the AI that I have, and as some people have gone to, is that Microsoft is forcing AI on us, forcing it in the system. You can't get rid of it. Now, some people will argue, well, Emerald, you've commented in the past that you use Grok. Yes, I do. Except for one little thing. I choose to use Grok. Grok, I have to actually go and use. I have to then enter into Grok through X to be able to use it. Microsoft Windows, it's right embedded, and they're putting the Copilot in more and more things. Go to the one thing that I wish I had the video. I did not save that video, but they're including now Copilot into the file manager. What's irritating too is as I'm talking about all of this, what's sitting here, because I haven't fully left the Microsoft ecosystem yet, because I'm still testing things. I'm to do the switch over, but sure enough, because I'm streaming from Microsoft Windows, what do I have over there? Oh, I have another fucking update. Ever since Windows 11 has come out, I am shocked at the amount of freaking updates they are constantly been doing.
Read that carefully. The clipboard data, browser fragments, and activity logs stored in these hidden folders could potentially be uploaded to cloud servers and used to train AI systems that analyze user behavior patterns. Third, enterprise environments with Windows licensing allow IT departments to remotely access diagnostic telemetry as part of endpoint security monitoring. That means if you work for a company using Windows Enterprise, your employer's IT team potentially has visibility into data collected through these hidden diagnostic systems. The in-private browser session you opened during lunch to search for a new job, the confidential client email you copied into a document, and the medical test result you downloaded from your patient portal. All of that activity could leave traces in diagnostic logs accessible to your organization's administrators.
Windows 11 may have some really major problems if they don't stop doing this. When it comes to the medical field, the amount of private information that is done on the computers that is HIPAA, and yet Microsoft is sitting there just screenshotting away of personal medical history. The more and more I learn, the more and more I see, the more videos I watch on this, the more and more I just really want to say, go fuck yourself, Microsoft. You want to go and do that stuff, then fine. But you want to know what? I think people need to start giving the middle finger to Microsoft and start leaving. Let's start moving people towards Linux. I don't care what distro, but Linux. Those that are Windows that only knew Windows, let's get them some of the Mint or Zorn, the easier beginner ones. And most of these distros are free. And you don't have to be constantly online. You don't have to create an account to be able to use these distros. But you gotta for Windows 11, because we need your information. We need to take your stuff, everything you do, so we can train our AI. Fuck your AI.
Privacy regulators have been aware of these issues since 2017. The Dutch Data Protection Authority published an investigation in November 2017, concluding that Windows 10 telemetry collection violated European privacy laws. The authority found that Microsoft's lack of clarity about what data gets collected, combined with numerous vague data collection objectives, meant the company could not secure valid legal consent for the processing. Microsoft made some changes in April 2018, but Dutch investigators issued another report in July 2019, warning that government employees should not use Microsoft Office due to continuing telemetry privacy violations.
I hate to give Europe kind of like a little bit of a kudos, a good job. But I'm finding and seeing more and more European countries and other countries that are abandoning Microsoft. That's where they make their money when it comes to the operating system. By and large, me leaving Microsoft Windows, you know what? Essentially, they can pretty much, for the most part, go, okay, well, see ya. Don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Because in the end, I'm not even important. Most of us aren't. But the more and more people that abandon and get rid of Microsoft, the bigger hit they take. But the biggest hits they're going to take is businesses leaving, education leaving, and governments leaving. See if I can find the video, and eventually we'll watch it when it does the breakdown of like Microsoft, how much. Windows operating system, by and large, though, for what their profit is coming in off of the for their entire ecosystem for their finances, I think it was like around like 20% or less of their income is actually coming in from Windows operating system. The rest is other things like Office 365 or their cloud services or web hosting.
August 2019, Ireland's Data Protection Commission, the lead European Union privacy authority for Microsoft, formally opened an investigation into Windows 10 telemetry practices. The investigation came after Dutch authorities discovered that Microsoft was still collecting additional user data remotely despite previous agreements to restrict data collection. Because the General Data Protection Regulation had come into force in 2018, Microsoft now faced potential fines of up to 4% of global revenue, which, based on their 2018 earnings of over $100 billion, could reach $4 billion. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, a nonprofit civil liberties organization, published a scathing editorial in August 2016, accusing Microsoft of blatant disregard of user choice and privacy in Windows 10. The EFF criticized Microsoft for not explaining how it aggregates and anonymizes telemetry data, for refusing to disclose data retention timeframes, and for forcing all non-enterprise users to share at least some diagnostic data with no ability to opt out.
There it is right there. Microsoft is not allowing people to opt out. If you have a more basic Windows, congratulations, they're taking all of your information, essentially. And you have no way to opt out. Don't worry, you're just an AI trainer. Wow, it's just amazing. It amazes me that that the company is getting away with this, and I'm really surprised that governments around the world haven't started banning it. I mean, we get here in the U.S. get upset with Chinese companies going and operating, and we know that they're taking our data, to the fact that some countries are starting to pull back from China manufacturers because of that reason. The theft for intellectual property, personal information, data. I know, granted, the argument always is, well, you use Google, you use Amazon, you're doing the same thing to them. You're just giving them the government already has your information. These companies already have your information. Well, I'm sorry, I don't like that argument. What gives a company the right to access whatever they want of my information? And the fact that Microsoft doesn't even give the ability to opt out, and they're still taking telemetry data.
The organization also faulted Microsoft for setting telemetry collection to the highest level by default, and for hiding behind vague legal statements when confronted about trust issues. Microsoft responded to these investigations with statements promising cooperation and transparency. The company introduced the Diagnostic Data Viewer and claimed to have made privacy controls more accessible. But independent testing revealed significant problems that persist to this day. The Diagnostic Data Viewer itself requires up to 1 gigabyte of disk space just to display collected telemetry. Think about that for a moment. Windows is collecting such a massive volume of diagnostic data that simply viewing it through Microsoft's official tool requires reserving an entire gigabyte of storage. Security researchers have also documented that the Diagnostic Data Viewer only shows a subset of what Windows actually collects. The forensic evidence found in Autologger ETL files, RBS telemetry databases, and hidden app data cache folders contains significantly more detailed information than what Microsoft surfaces through their viewer.
Unbelievable. Again, I don't know this for myself. I don't know where to get all this stuff, but if IT specialists are saying it, so I'm going to have to say allegedly this is true. But that's unacceptable. Then just bringing up, and I've noticed this too, is that ever since Microsoft's, I would say about 3 months ago, maybe less, ever since that update, Windows for me is now sluggish. It freezes up. Performance has dropped. And the PC that I'm using, for my purposes, is way overpowered. I got a Ryzen 9, 12 core, 24 thread. I'm running a high-end video card. I have 64 gigs of memory, and my system still will freeze up after this last Microsoft update to Windows. The amount of space a lot of memory that is just tied into Microsoft Windows is unbelievable. I compared it to Linux, just putting the Linux system in and doing it. Okay, Linux is not nearly as system resource heavy in any kind of way. I think it was using maybe 1.5 gigs at most. 1.2. Let me look at this real quick. Let me pull up my task manager and see what task manager is currently using. Now, keep in mind, as I say this, I'm also currently running a couple tabs in Chrome. I'm also using OBS. But currently, my memory usage is 22.6 gigabytes. Now, granted, with the 65 gigabyte that I have in my system, granted, that's only still 36% of my total memory. Again, the overpowered system. Look at these lower end systems that only have, I mean, if I had only a 16 gigabyte, my memory would be maxed out right now and not functioning. Unbelievable. Let's get back to the video.
Testing by digital forensics experts in 2022 and 2023 found that even when users disable optional diagnostic data and set their privacy level to required, Windows continues creating cache files in the app data packages directory. Those 27 gigabytes of hidden data that a Reddit user discovered, that accumulated even with telemetry supposedly set to minimum levels. The clipboard history that Philippe Moore recovered from activities cache.db. That persisted despite the user clearing the clipboard history through Windows settings. The security protecting these hidden folders is also weaker than most users realize. While some clipboard cache files use encryption, the encryption keys are stored locally on the same device. Forensic tools can decrypt these databases without needing administrator access. The activities cache.db stores clipboard content as base64 encoded strings, which is encoding, not encryption. Anyone with user-level file access can decode that data instantly. If you want to regain some control over this hidden data collection, there are practical steps you can take without being a Windows expert. First, disable clipboard history entirely. Go to Settings, then System, then Clipboard, and toggle off clipboard history. This...
How many basic yeah, sure. He's saying that even a non-Windows user can easily do this, but how many Windows users don't even would even think about this? And I think Microsoft intentionally does this because they could take advantage of those that really don't know. Grandma and grandpa aren't going to know anything about this. Know this is happening to their data. Know this is happening to their system. The younger generation that doesn't have enough experience with computer systems in themselves and only use phones and tablets, which have the most basics of interfaces when it comes to being able to do anything on them, they don't know about this stuff and being able to shut this stuff off. And I think Microsoft really kind of banks on that. How else are we going to train our AI if we don't have this data of yours?
Prevents Windows from creating those persistent JSON cache files in the clipboard folder. Second, change your diagnostic data level to the minimum your Windows edition allows. Go to Settings, then Privacy and Security, then Diagnostics and Feedback. If you have Windows 11 Pro or Enterprise, use the Group Policy Editor to set telemetry to the security level. Press Windows key plus R, type gpedit.msc, navigate to Computer Configuration.
Notice what he said there when making these adjustments. It's the whole point. If you have Pro or Enterprise. So the basic home user, which is the basic system that everyone else buys, you can't do this. Most systems, when you buy Windows, is the Home Edition, the most basic edition. You can't do this. You have to at least buy, at minimum, have Pro. And on top of that, again, the lack that no one even knows about this.
Administrative templates, Windows components, data collection, and preview builds, and set Allow Diagnostic Data to the lowest available option. For Windows 11 home users, you are limited to required diagnostic data, but you can manually delete collected telemetry by clicking Delete Diagnostic Data in that same Diagnostics and Feedback menu. Third, review what applications have access to diagnostic data.
But who knows how to do that? Or who knows that they can do that? Or knows that Microsoft's even doing this in the first place so that they have to go and do this? Again, they're playing, I think Microsoft, again, is playing on people's ignorance of their computer systems. Again, I think this still leads to the fact that I said earlier that it seems like the more technology has grown, the more things that we have ability and the easier access to this technology that we have, they're playing off the stupidity of people. I think people become dumber. Well, it's so easy to use. It's so personable. It doesn't matter. You're giving up your own information to a company that's using it to train AI. But what else are they using it for? The fact that European countries, as this video even stated, even European countries have had to go after Microsoft for this data collection. It violates their own government laws for privacy. If other countries are seeing this and it's happening to them, you guarantee this is happening to us. And we're a country that's all in love with privacy. Then again, well, people are willing to hand over so many. I mean, it goes back to COVID. People were so easily will give up our freedoms for that sense of security. After 9/11, same thing. Sense of security. So you want to know what? Let's go get our balls tapped at the airport by TSA because you want to know what? Security, safety.
Data and activity history. Go to Settings, Privacy and Security, Activity History, and disable Store My Activity History on this device. This stops Windows from logging detailed activity to the activitiescache.db database. Fourth, for advanced users comfortable with Registry Editor, you can further restrict telemetry collection. Press Windows key plus R, type regedit, navigate to HKEY_local_machine, /software, /policies, /Microsoft, /Windows, /data collection, create a new stored value called allow telemetry, and set it to 0.
What basic Windows user is ever going to do that? And why does this need to be necessary to stop this? I'll just say it. Microsoft is evil. I think Microsoft's just been around just way too long. They've gotten too comfortable. Everyone just accepts it. Everyone is just so used to it. I mean, again, that's just the nature of humanity. They're afraid to try new things. Try a different operating system. Find something that actually is going to work for you. Stop just shelling out your information and money to Microsoft. There are so many other companies the exact same way that we need to start backing away from.
Start your computer afterward. Be aware that this may prevent some Windows Update functions from working properly, so only use this method if you understand the trade-offs. Finally, periodically check your App Data Packages folder size. Open File Explorer, enable viewing hidden files, navigate to %, local app data, %, /packages /, and review what is consuming storage. Some subfolders can safely be removed to reclaim space and eliminate old cache data. Your operating system does not just work for you anymore. It works for the company that built it, collecting diagnostic data and creating permanent records in hidden folders most users will never discover. That is not a conspiracy. That is documented reality, confirmed by independent security researchers, privacy regulators, and forensic evidence from real-world investigations. You have two choices. First, open Windows settings, go to Privacy and Security, and disable at least one data collection feature today. Or, second, share this video with someone who uses Windows and deserves to know what is being stored on their computer. Leave a comment telling me which option you chose. Next time, I am investigating.
So again, it's just unbelievable. Again, I think it's Microsoft's gotten too comfortable, and it's this huge push for AI. I've said it before. It's not that I'm not afraid of AI. I'm afraid of who's programming it. People are inherently biased, and we're seeing it too often when it comes to just politics. You have some that at least can sit there and argue with each other from different point of view and still walk away as friends. Then you have other ones that sit there, and because you disagree with them, they're out to end your life because you disagree with them. It's just, again, I really do think, I think as technology is increased, I definitely think we have become as a species dumber. Knowledge is too easy just to obtain, but a lot of times it's that false information. The laziness to question and explore and actually find out the truth behind things. It's so easy to just Google it, and whatever the AI says is immediately what you go with, or the top given link to a story. You just accept that instead of looking deeper to other sources or anything like that. Not an advertisement for Ground News, but Ground News at least does a good job of aggregating stories from both political sides and a neutral side. The thing about the news in general that I find is that it's important to read both the right and the left. Now, you're going to have the biases on both sides, but if you read a story about the exact same event, then you're actually, and then read it from both sides, where they overlap, there's the story, there's the truth of the story that's not colored in bias. And I think the biggest lie that there is that news has become bias. And it's not like the past that it was unbiased. No, the news of the past was biased too. It's just they had less choices. So you didn't see opposing views. You didn't see anything else. You go even further back to the press, the printing press I'm talking about, and newspapers, at least old newspapers, at least spelled out in their titles their bias. The Washington Democrat, the Los Angeles Republican, the Kansas City Republican. You, at least when you bought or were reading that paper, you knew what their bias was. Now you get these news organizations that are saying here going, oh, we're right down the middle, we're unbiased. But you can sit there and watch it, and you have, let's say, the Democrats in office, and there's protection, not slamming them or anything like that. And then you get a Republican in office, and it's all attack, attack, attack. But we're on bias. We just give you the news. The American people can see that. I don't think the American people have become that jaded and that stupid. I think they've been blinded and have been blind, but I think a lot of people are kind of waking up to the truth that, again, you don't hate the mainstream media enough. Well, is it for the first episode of, well, you know, let me look real quick. Let me see if I can find something that's a little bit shorter that I don't need to, let's see. Something that's short. Here we go. We will do Linux BTW. This is on Linux. Let's pull this up. I pull this up. This comes from, there we go. That's the screen I actually wanted earlier. Okay, this comes from everyone is switching to Linux. Well, not everyone, but this comes from Linux BTW, and I'm going to give them a subscribe. Go and check them out. Let's see here.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Steve from Linux, by the way, and it looks like 2026 is shaping up to be a great year for Linux on the desktop, mostly due to the gaming community. So during the last year, Valve has put a ton of effort into Linux and making Proton excellent, and now Linux runs games usually even better than Windows, and we're starting to see this leak out into all sorts of non-Linux circles where mainstream gamers are kind of upset at the way Windows has been mistreated and ignored, and there's sort of all these AI features going in that people aren't a fan of. We see Microsoft actually addressing it head on, where they're saying they won't make AI slop, etc. But we know that every time you do an update, you have to click all the toggles and you have to tell them, hey, I don't want to give you all my information. And every update brings new and unwanted features where everything is really a web view than an actual app, and all sorts of problems. And this is where Linux is really taking the time to shine, because
I'm glad he brought that up. Yes, I have heard this in multiple videos now. People have gone and put all of their private settings and put all of the switched every toggle that could take upwards of like an hour and a half going through every single screen, shutting this stuff off. You do a Windows update and everything is right back on. So now you got to do another hour and a half. Now, again, that just shows you at this point don't own Windows. You have no control over Windows. You can shut it off for a while, but then they'll just kick out another update, and all of your privacy settings have been reset back to their standards.
A lot of users do want the freedom and control. It's not just about money. It's about, like, can I control my system? And are you going to push down an update, which just ruins everything for me because I just want to play games? And we see PC Gamer come out with this banger, which is, I'm brave enough to say it. Linux is good now. If you want to feel like you actually own your PC, make 2026 the year of Linux on your desktop. And that's awesome, and it's true. So there's a lot of ways to run Linux. If you're new to the channel or new to Linux, you just kind of came across this video, I'm running Omarchy, but for new users, a lot of users use Bazite now, and Bazite is just a click install, and you can't screw it up really because you can always just roll back. So it's got this very sophisticated update system.
That is another Linux distro that I've been hearing is Bazite. The ones that I'm also hearing for those that are trying to do a migration from Linux distros from Windows, as like I said earlier, was Linux Mint and Zorn Linux. Those are about the three that I constantly am really hearing a lot of Linux users talking about good distros for those trying to make that change. Very Windows-like, operates and looks very similar to Windows, and there's still a learning curve, granted, with Linux, because it is a different operating system. It does work differently than Microsoft. And again, a lot of us have spent our entire lives dealing with and learning how Microsoft works. So it's become second nature when it comes to Microsoft Windows on a lot of these things. But it is a little bit of a learning curve. And I mean, granted, it's not going to be for everyone, but for a lot of people that are just using their system for very basic items, I mean, everything I'm seeing, the better choice is, you know what, keeping control of your own data, owning your own PC, controlling your own operating system. Linux is the choice. Choose a distro that works for you. There's one of the wonderful things that I'm finding about Linux is the fact that you can get it loaded onto a thumb drive, and then you can run it from the thumb drive. You don't have to actually install it. So you can try different distros out and before you actually commit to one. Try to do that with Windows.
And so you can check that out if you're interested. And so if we check out the article by Joshua Wollens, he says, I'm all in, baby. I'm committed. If upgrading any distinct component of my PC didn't require me to take a loan out right now, I'd be seriously considering switching my GPU over to some kind of AMD thing just to make my life slightly easier. And that's because Linux works great with AMD GPUs. So AMD made a big effort to open source their drivers, and it can run all sorts of games. And as you see, it's also in a lot of different devices. So if you take the Steam Deck, that's actually an AMD GPU, etc. And so it works great, and I would highly recommend it. I've also used NVIDIA. I really don't have problems there. They do make good drivers, and it works well for video editing and things like that. And you can check that out. I have a couple of videos on that. And it's worth pointing out, as we enter 2026, Linux usage on Steam has hit an all-time high. So we're at 3.2% of overall users, but that's grown fairly rapidly, and that's a non-trivial number, right? That's still like 1 million users plus. And so tons of people out there running it. But also, this is what Valve uses for the Steam Deck. So Valve uses their Arch distro, and they're able to make all these games run on very low-end hardware. So if you build a full desktop, everything is going to run awesomely. And I see that all the time now. When I open a game and I run Proton, it like just works and everything looks good. And I don't.
And that's the thing about it. You have Steam OS and the stuff that he's talking about with a handheld. It's Linux. There's so many things that Linux actually is running that people just don't realize. Because only people are paying attention to the more forward-facing item operating system, which is, again, Microsoft. I said it earlier that Microsoft, you go into a store, you have your choice, a low-end budget PC that's a laptop that's running Chrome OS, or a PC that is forced you to have Windows, or you're buying Mac. And then you're in the Mac OS ecosystem. If you're a person that's building their own PC, granted you have other options, but most people will just what? Install Windows. I'm hoping that a lot of this is right, that I don't think that this is the year of Linux specifically. I think this may be a good year for Linux. I think Linux may actually grow, but I also think Chrome OS is going to grow. And Microsoft's going to continue to lose market share, and I'm not going to lose a tier. Screw you, Bill Gates. You may not be in charge of the company anymore, but you want to know what? You still have stocks. I'd rather see your value go down on the garbage that your company you made produced.
Don't have to fiddle with config files or anything. And that's what a lot of users are experiencing. And we're just seeing a flood of these articles as sort of 2026 kicks off. So there's another one that's on XDA developers, and I put the articles below if you want to check them out. It says, I deleted Windows from my PC after using Linux for 5 months. Now, I know what you're all thinking is like, yeah, we've heard this before, and we've heard it every year, et cetera. We've really reached a tipping point where Microsoft has taken its eyes off the ball in terms of it doesn't really focus on Windows and iterate and make that a consumer-centric thing anymore. They have these big business clients, and then they have these other markets like the cloud computing and AI, and that's where their attention is going. It's just not going to people who are casual gamers. And you also see that with the Xbox really hurting lately and not really being focused and delivering what gamers want. And so that's why this is this perfect opportunity.
Oh, Microsoft Xbox. You're garbage now.
Because, yeah, is Linux easy to use all the time? Well, in the gaming scenario, yes, because you just insert a USB key, you click a couple buttons to install, and then you log into Steam, and like Steam is basically your main interface. But there's a million other things you could do on Linux if you wanted to, and people are starting to see that now, but especially for the gamers, because their use case is solved, and everybody's just sort of picking that up. And so the article here says, a little while ago, I posted an article about moving from Windows to Linux and how they didn't really miss Windows. And at the end, I mused that I may never actually delete my Windows partition because I might need it. Well, fast forward a week and a half, I found Windows is now gone from my system. Yeah, that didn't last long. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm seeing all over the place. And it's not just these few articles that are on these very mainstream publications now. It's starting to be like dominoes falling, and we're really picking up the speed there.
Or people are buying and just actually building their own PC, and instead of ever putting a Windows operating system on it, they're immediately putting a Linux distro. Now, granted, that's kind of what I've done, but I also went and took my old server, which was off-the-shelf components that I had built myself, and all I did, because I upgraded and got some new server stuff, I just essentially went through and cannibalized old components that are all still very good, still work fine, and are great for such a low overhead operating system that Linux is. And I made a Linux system. Now, granted, as I said earlier, I'm still using Windows right now, but I'm migrating over. As soon as I get the things migrated over and I no longer need to have Windows anymore, the Windows PC is getting wiped. I'm going to be getting rid of Windows completely out of my life. Microsoft out of my life. Granted, I can't fully when it comes to work because work still uses the Microsoft. So I'm stuck when it comes to work, but that's it. That's fine. If they don't want to change, that's on them. But for my own home network, my own home PCs, I'm getting rid of Microsoft. Microsoft's going away. I'm ending my use of Windows and Microsoft products in general.
To caught this tweet from Hightail. So they're looking at targeting Linux support. And I've seen other very Linux-friendly developers on all sorts of new games coming out. And it makes sense, right? Because you need these games to work really well in the Steam box and the Steam Deck. And also there is a non-trivial amount of users on Linux now. And so that's really great to see. And then some users are actually using Linux for performance gains. Now, I think a lot of people out there would use Linux, even if it was 10% slower or 15% slower, just because they don't have to deal with Microsoft or like pushing down Candy Crunch or whatever sort of screenshotting AI features they want to throw your way when you can just
recall. That's it. I'm glad he showed that on the screen. It's recall. Recall is what's taking the screenshots. It's for the Copilot so that you can then ask your Copilot this information and it'll go back through your screenshots and find your information. But again, that's just data that's just being collected that's easily to be hacked. Not to mention the overhead of the usage of the memory of the system to run all of these background processes that are going on. There's a reason why people are noticing Windows seems to be getting slower. Gamers specifically, he's kind of talking about it, but gamers noticed that there's been a drop in performance for games between going from Windows 10 to Windows 11 and even with the updates. As updates come out and get in place, more and more stuff of Windows AI and what I flat out think is essentially more spyware by Microsoft means more processes happening in the background, which is eating up more memory, which is slowing down the systems.
Run it all on Linux and not have to worry about any of that, or have like the OneDrive box pop up over and over and over again. And like you silence notifications, and we've all done that, right? No fun. But there's also a lot of great benchmarks out now showing this one's CachyOS versus Windows 11. But there's a real performance increase in a lot of these games too. So you're not losing performance. Sometimes you're gaining it. And so if you're interested in any of this, I'm a developer. And so I'm running Omarchy at the moment, which is like this crazy tiling Windows manager. And you can see me swap between things and all that. And I have a video on that. But if you're somebody who's more normal and not a programmer or anything, you can check out Bazite and you can just install that and run Steam. And you can even do it with Windows still installed. So you can make a little space in your Windows partition for it. And you can just try it out, right? Put the USB key in, give it a shot, check if your games run before you see like, can you move over? And basically 90% of the gaming population on Windows, they're doing things like they're running games, maybe they're running OBS, and they have a web browser and they're voice chatting or something. And that is a solved problem. We have Chrome, we have Brave, we have all of those things. We have all the games. Like my mic just works with Linux. I don't have to do anything funny. I'm making this video on Linux. I have OBS running, capturing my screen. And so all of that in terms of like, oh, I heard that didn't work with Linux, or I tried it 15 years ago, it didn't work out. Well, it works now. And so let me know what you think. Are you switching over to Linux? Are there big games that won't run? I do know there's some anti-cheats, right? So like if you want to play some of the bigger games and they have the easy anti-cheat, it doesn't always work on Linux. In my case, I'm playing single player games or multiplayer games without easy anti-cheat. And I should probably talk about that in a future video.
Yeah, that for the gamers, that I can see being a problem because the anti-cheat software, it sees that you're on a Linux system and then it essentially locks you out. Yeah, I can kind of see that, but I think that also is because more support coming in and the more people taking on Linux and starting to use Linux, I think that'll change things. I think it was just a simple catch-all that, well, if they're on Linux, then there's a high probability they're using some kind of cheat software. I can see that. I can understand that. But again, the more people that adopt a Linux operating system, the more and more they're going to have to start examining those anti-cheat software items and start and going to have to refine them.
Yeah, too, because what you're talking about is you're giving these game developers access to like your whole system, right? So when you have Warden or Easy Anti-Cheat or whatever, it's running on a kernel level. So that means like if you have a pictures folder or a password vault or anything else, well, it can like read what's in your memory, okay? So if you're trusting these game developers to have root access to your system, you know, cool, I guess that's like your thing, right? I don't think that I trust them very much, especially just because like everything from the hiring practices. Game developers are not the most secure companies. They're not the most compliant companies. They don't have the longevity. So even if like you started a game company that was excellent, well, maybe 5 years down the road, you've lost some people. There's been some reorgs, you know, people don't remember how secure you're supposed to be, whatever the case may be. With things like Bazite, you can run these in a container. So you can say, oh, I'm going to run Steam over here. And by the way, it can't access my web browser. And so that's actually really cool. And so I'm definitely not a fan of these anti-cheats, and you should think about it because they might be doing more than you think, or certainly like if they got hacked, that would be a huge problem for everybody and you might not know it. And so anyways, let me know in the comments below. Are you running Linux for all your games? Have you swapped over? Are there things still holding you back, or are there weird incompatible hardware? In my case, I always recommend like System 76, for example. They make pre-built Linux machines and they just install Linux on there, and they have their own distro called Cosmic Desktop, which is written in Rust, which is really cool. And with that, I also just posted a very beginner Rust tutorial where we try to make a game in Rust using an awesome blog post. So if you're interested in that, check it out. But otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Later.
So as I said earlier, go ahead and maybe if you are starting to get interested in maybe looking into Linux and stuff like that and stuff, go ahead and give them a check out to Linux BTW. Look at their actual screen here. And let's see. They're still fairly new when it comes to videos in the sense of how many they have out. But I gave them a follow. That's good. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining me on this episode, the very first episode of All the Good Titles Were Taken. I'm going to leave for this evening. I have another event for this evening that is planned. I'm going to go take off and get ready for that. So you all have a great evening. We will see you next time. Coming up on Saturday at 7 p.m. PST. On Saturday is Insert Title here. Then on Tuesday at 6 p.m. PST back on this channel is Nerds Covering the News. And then we will be doing another one of these next Thursday at 6 p.m. PST. This is going to be the show that's kind of going to possibly have other shows throughout the week. This will be the standard day that it will always be, but I may pop up more throughout the week if a video comes along that I want to react to or talk about. That is what the purpose of this show is. So everyone have a great night. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, or follow button appropriate to whatever streaming that you are doing, because I'm on X, I'm in Kick, I'm on Rumble, and I am on YouTube. So everyone have a great night. We will see you next time. Take it easy.